Okay, welcome everybody. This is Charlie Gaudet here with my man Zach Burks. Today I have the very distinct pleasure of introducing you to our prospecting plan. So for those of you who've been around and following us for a while, you know that we do things a little bit differently. And we also like to think strategically. We're not big fans of growth hacks. Those have a very short lifespan. We're more of a fan of the longer term game. And one thing that you're going to see in the prospecting plan, it reminds me of a lesson that my uncle gave me a while back when I worked for his company. And he says, Charlie, if you want to be successful, you got to be willing to do the things that other people are not willing to do. And so we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to tell you that it is strategic. It does require work. And I can promise you that 99.9% of all your competitors are not doing anything that we're talking about today. Here's a little carrot that I'm gonna say that's hopefully going to keep you to the end of today's presentation and test it for yourself. This prospecting plan, when used in our own business, has increased our leads by 1,100%. And when I say leads, I'm talking about qualified conversations, not just leads. That's a different story. You can get as many leads as you want. But when you actually have qualified conversations on the phone, now that in and of itself is a combination between both an art and a science. We're going to go into details on that today. One thing, but right before we get into this, is that because we have people coming in here, new people been around for a while, so I'll just kind of recap this a little bit. You know, way back in the day, it was a lot easier to use a singular method of touch, right? It was a lot less crowded. We were doing cold email, and we were setting God knows how many appointments with cold emails, just really, really simple. You didn't even have to be that good at it. You could just put together a cold email sequence, and you'll fill your plate for the month with cold email alone. Then cold email went to LinkedIn. We'd have a LinkedIn strategy. In fact, it was an automated LinkedIn strategy. Zach, many people know him actually as the master of LinkedIn. The wizard of LinkedIn, the LinkedIn Mac Daddy. I mean, people have called you everything. But one thing that, Zach had this automated LinkedIn strategy that he was using, and he was setting more appointments by 10 a.m., something like that, than most people would set in a week.
Yeah.
That, we shared that with everybody that worked for a while. Then, LinkedIn's getting a little bit more noisy. So once again, we got to be a lot more strategic and do things that other people aren't doing. So I'm going to introduce you to the Predictable Profits Prospecting Plan. This is exactly what we do in our business. And we'll share the results and the tips and what's working, what's not working. We do this stuff ourselves. So we don't just coach people on how to build this in their own business. We do it ourselves because it helps us ultimately be able to serve you even better. So, Zach, why don't we start with the lead list? Let's talk to them. Let's uncover everything. Talk to them about what we've tested, a bunch of lead sources. Let's talk about the lead sources that we've used that work. Just assume if it's a popular lead source, we've tested it and we're not using it because it doesn't work. So go ahead, Zach, take it from here.
I guess before I jump in there, the one other thing I'll say is that you could absolutely put this sort of plan, follow every single step and into your business and probably see some great results. But you could also mix and match or find what works best for you. And I think that's the important thing to remember is that what you're saying is what worked yesterday may not work today. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean literally yesterday, but I mean like what worked 2 months ago may not work today. And so actually looking at this plan, we've actually made a couple tweaks since we put this plan together. And so they're minor and I'll go into them, but the idea is still the same. It needs to be strategic. There's hard work and you have to always be testing to kind of improve. Right. But so getting to the lead list, Charlie, what are we currently using right now? We're using TaskDrive, correct?
Yep. TaskDrive, TaskDrive. The guy who owns TaskDrive, David Hensel, very, very successful entrepreneur. I'm happy to provide any of you with an introduction if you want one. Great guy.
Yeah. So basically what happens is you can provide them a quick, synopsis of your ideal client, what space they're in, what their title is, where do they live, And we've even seen, differences between US and Canada, things like that. So the more specific you can be on your ideal client, they will go scour the internet, find their information, find the size of the company. Let's say we want a company that makes 1.3 million in revenue. They'll go find those clients that are in that exact, location or in revenue space, and they'll do everything else, and they'll return back with their name, their information, their email address, their phone number, and their LinkedIn profile. So I think that's probably the best one that we've used to date. Now, I know others are using things like, we use Zen Prospect for a period of time.
Yeah.
We've used even like Sales Navigator on LinkedIn, to maybe scan some, list of people, automation, and then try to find the emails ourselves, which the results were kind of spotty. So we've done a number of things, like Zoom Info and a couple others. My experience is, and the one thing I will say about that is to be not hesitant, but to be aware that sometimes the information can be outdated. So a lot of these databases, they'll collect their information like a DMB, right? Or like a Hoover's is a good example. They have this massive database, and they'll promote that, or that's like their claim to fame is we have, millions of people in our database, but some of the information can be as old as 2006. And so that's not all that helpful if a business is no longer in business since they've gone out, right? So that's my one thing I would recommend is be kind of cautious. Ask like how frequently do they update their database? Are they using LinkedIn? Because that in my opinion is the most up-to-date source. And will they provide any sort of refunds if the emails if they bounce or anything like that?
Now, one of the things that I like about Task Drive is that it's also hand curated leads, and they validate the email addresses. So now we have a list, right? So these are assistants. They go ahead, they create the list for us. We have the list. What's next?
Yeah. So let's say they come back with a list of 75 names. They say, Zach, we found these, business owners who would be a good fit for your business coaching. This is the space they're in, et cetera, et cetera. The first step would be to kind of put them into our, campaign, our plan, and that's to send them an email, the first one, which, Charlie, as you know, is kind of labor intensive, that first one, right? Because we want to personalize it. What I see a lot of people doing is sending an email, or if they're not even sending it really themselves, right? They'll get a list, they'll throw it into an automated tool. Every single email is automated. It's this blast that could be sent to millions of people and no personalization. And, what sort of results would you expect from that, Charlie?
Yeah, you're not going to get many at all.
Exactly. Just crickets. And so I think that's the biggest thing that we've seen to really drive success for us. And, I'm guilty of that. I used to automate and just blast as many people as possible. Well, maybe not as many people as possible. I was a little more concerned, but still we wouldn't automate as much. And that used to work really well. But now people are onto it. And if your prospect can sense a sales pitch coming, they're going to shut off immediately, right? So you have to be, you have to do the hard work up front, do some research, better understand their business, why it makes sense for them to connect with you. And that's what the first email should be.
And you want to keep that email nice and short. You haven't earned the right to be able to send them a long email. So keep it nice and short. And, we're reaching people from all different niches and sectors and whatnot. One of the recent niches that we've been looking into working with are venture capitalists. I think everybody here can agree that a venture capitalist, they get pitched all the time, and a venture capitalist is really, really difficult to get in contact with, let alone to get a response. And we're finding, Zach, I think you told me the other day, I know you were looking at the stats, something like 9% or something along those lines, 9.6% of anybody we sent, any venture capitalist we sent an email to actually responded. And we set several appointments with venture capitalists, which are great. So, that is the reason why you want to make sure it's personalized. Some of you right now that are watching this are here today because of an email that you received from us where we actually did a personal video. So I might actually, there's a free extension called Vidyard, Vidyard. There's a free extension where you shoot a quick video, And in that quick video, I could say something like, hey, Simon and Madeline, it's Charlie Gaudet here. I went to your company, and then we personalize it. That could be one way, so that they know that the email is only going to them, and you're not mass marketing it. And you're more likely to get a response.
Yeah. So just real quick on that note, that some research came out yesterday, and they had analyzed, thousands and thousands of emails, and they showed that the results were kind of the same between video and text. The difference is that, and simply just personalization is not enough. And I want to point that out. Just simply saying, hey, I went to your website and read your blog post. Are you interested in a call? Well, anybody can do that. And a lot of people do say that, right? It has to be personalized, that is meaningful. Hey, Charlie, I came across your website. I noticed you're doing this. I think you might be leaving some money on the table by missing these opportunities. Interested in a quick call just to discuss this, something like that, where it's meaningful to them, to that person, not just, hey, I saw you like golf. You want to hop on a call? That's not enough. But we see that, right? And that does happen. So you have to be careful there. But anyway.
And folks, look, we're granted, you're not going to be emailing, 11,000 people a week, as one of my clients was doing, 11,000 people a week, trying to get a whole bunch of, of the 11,000, a very small percentage of the people replying. You're going to email a lot less people, so your lead costs will be less. But our response rates, as I mentioned, are up 1,100% because we're doing the stuff that nobody else is willing to do. That pre-qualifies you when somebody responds also as being a little bit different. They're going to take you a lot more seriously. So after email one, right, we send an email, and almost immediately after the email goes out the door, we click on their link and we connect with them on LinkedIn. We found that we don't want to give them a sales pitch on LinkedIn. We don't want to give them the traditional guru talk of, hi, my name is Charles Gaudet. I'm the CEO and founder of blah, blah, and I specialize in this, and here's why you want to connect with me. Or even the garb that we get all the time, which is, hi, I thought it might be valuable if we connect, because we have a lot of mutual connections in common, whatever that might be. You'll find actually that you're probably going to have your best connection rate with no message whatsoever, or a very generic one.
Yeah, so that's actually where we have a tweak in place, and I probably should have updated you prior to this, Charlie. I don't actually send that the same day, because I've seen results have been better if I send email 1, email 2, and then a LinkedIn connection. And the reason being is that there is a connection already there. And I'm saying, hey, John, I've sent you a couple emails, thought it would make sense to connect here, put a face to a name, to kind of prove I'm not a robot, or that I'm not just blasting you basic, type stuff. And the results have been exponentially better. I don't know the actual result percentage, but so that's the difference. And I probably should have pointed that out, but I think that
no problem.
But I think that's one of those things you have to keep in mind. It could change frequently, right? But I think if you are doing something different that everyone else is doing, right? If you're sending that connection request that screams of a sales pitch, or I just know now if I receive a connection request from somebody in their title that says, I help coaches grow their business, I know at some point he's going to hit me with a sales pitch. So I decline it, right? So I try to avoid those type of gimmicky type headlines now. I do a very basic, professional looking, so then it doesn't come off as though I'm trying to hit them with the sales pitch. So go to the last. Go ahead.
We got to make sure that we update this, but the point taken that, we're testing this all the time, right? I mean, we're always looking to optimize. It's part of the OSI method, right? Optimize, make it even that much better. And so just to recap what Zach said, because it's not here on this prospecting plan, is what Zach said is that he found the results to be even better when he sends an email and then waits. That will go under, I guess, day 7, right, Zach, where you're going to actually make that connection.
Yeah.
Got it. And now here's a part where you can be a little bit more strategic and so forth. I'm not going to just go over too many details. I want to be respectful of our time. I know we got 15 minutes left and still a lot left to cover. Facebook, usually what happens is we'll upload a CSV file with the email addresses that we're targeting, and we'll upload the CSV file, upload them over to Facebook, and immediately start retargeting them. There's a concept called effective frequency. This is the more that somebody sees your brand, the more that familiar they become with you, and the higher likelihood they're going to be of becoming a buyer. And so they're getting an email from us. They're getting LinkedIn connections. They're going to start seeing our ads. All of that adds up to effective frequency, with the sweet spot being 22. So 22 impressions is where you need to be. So day 1, there you go. Day 4, next, Zach, we drop another email.
Yeah, so we're sending another email. This one says social proof, which we're currently testing. We're also testing a different message, but the idea is still the same, right? It needs to be personalized, and it has to speak to them as to why they want to get on the phone. Most people think, what's in it for me, right? So keep that in mind. And Charlie, I should point out at the end, if people want to reach out, we can maybe give some ideas of what these emails look like in the actual message, because I think that would be beneficial to those watching as well. But for now, we'll just kind of go over the actual plan. So yeah, email 2 would be social proof. So that's kind of like what we have accomplished and why you should get on the phone so far, or like why it makes sense for you. And then the second aspect of that is phone call 1, which again, I don't know if we touched on this, but it's important to have various touch points. I think that has also contributed to our 1,100% increase. So we used to have email, and then we had LinkedIn, and they were kind of not together, or phone call, and it was just calling but not doing all of them. If you're able to tie all these aspects into one plan, your likelihood of success increases by a lot, because you're hitting them on different platforms at different time points with different messages. So it's that effective frequency that you mentioned.
Here's the fascinating thing, right? Is that we get a lot of pushback when we put phone calls in there, and we tell people, especially sales teams, look, you got to pick up the phone. You got to call these people. And they're like, no, nobody ever answers their phone. Nobody ever returns my voicemail and whatnot. Zach, how many times have you ever received a return phone call from somebody that you've left a message for?
It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare.
And yet the results, just by adding the phone call, okay, so when we added the phone call and we tested what's the impact of the phone call, it was 400%. So 400% increase by adding the phone call with nobody responding and nobody calling back. Why do you think that is? Put it in the chat real quick. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we had a 400% increase in the amount of strategy sessions booked by adding the phone call, even though almost nobody returned our calls? Why? Anybody? Zach, I'm going to let you answer for everybody here.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Okay, actually, you're both right.
Yeah.
Actually, everybody here to some degree is right.
Yeah, Rob too. Yeah, so that's it, right? Like I can't tell you how many emails I've received that said, hey, I got your call, right? So like I'm not going to call you back because I don't quite know you, or I'm not quite ready yet to do that, or I'm really busy, but hey, I got your call. And it all has a cumulative type effect, right? It all builds. It's like compound interest. Each action kind of builds on the one before that. So if I'm only following up, or if I'm only sending one email and one connection request, and then I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for someone to get back to me, I haven't really built that case to say, hey, I'd love 15 minutes of your time. Like that I deserve their 15 minutes of their time because I've only done 2 actions. But each little step adds on to the one before that. And at the end, it does take some time. And you can automate some of these aspects, right? Once you get into some of the other ones, it doesn't have to be super personalized. Still, it has a profound impact on your results. And it's easy to follow. It's clear what needs to happen. You can set reminders, and the results go through the roof because what everyone said, it's more personal. No one else is doing it. It's a real person, and it just kind of builds on the step before it.
And Zach's forwarded me or BCC'd me on some emails where people were responding back to him and jokingly saying, wow, you're persistent. Okay, you know what? More than happy to get on the phone with you, or more than happy to schedule some time, because they realize this must be important. if he's reached out multiple ways, this must be important. And also what Madeline said, they know now it's a real person.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing that we've kind of, sorry to cut you off there. The biggest thing that we've glossed over is that we're all busy, right? I don't know about you, Charlie, but today I've had not only personal stuff, right? We're like changing a headlight in a car. Then we have, got to take the dog outside, and then, workout, and then plus work and client calls and prospect calls and all these different things that, one email can get lost in the shuffle. Two actions can get lost. But if I'm constantly following up, it's that effective frequency. It's also just saying, hey, I'm right here. Oh, I'm sorry. I know you sent me those 2 emails. Yeah, let's do it. Right. Like and that happens. People are very busy these days, and it's not, you're not being spammy. I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying you should blast people and hit them upside the head, but if done in a strategic, thoughtful way, it can be very impactful.
Well, do you remember what Chet Holmes' number one ingredient for his sales success was? He was known as the number one salesperson in the world at one point, or his claim to fame. Do you remember what that ingredient was?
Yeah, it wasn't like the best tech or the best strategy or whatever. It was just pig-headed persistence.
Pig-headed persistence, absolutely. Sometimes he'd stay on top of somebody for a year before they respond. I mean, we just signed up a new client. Wasn't yesterday. It was the day before. Who's literally been. We've been following up with him for what, 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, it matters, right? And it adds up. So let's get to the next step. We're running out of time here. We like to talk, Charlie and I. So
I know, right?
Day
You're all
7.
hearing us, and God forbid what happens.
Right. So you're at day 7. This is 3 days later. We've sent 2 emails. At this point, I'm usually sending a connection request instead of kind of the follow-up LinkedIn. So let's assume that we've kind of switched it around a little bit. But if you're sticking to this original plan, you've already made the connection request. Now, what I'd like to do on LinkedIn is do a follow-up, is typically in mail. So that does require Sales Navigator. I don't know if we did a good job with this. So email, we use a tool called Fresh Sales, right? And so that allows me to track my entire pipeline. I can automate a number of aspects. It ties into a couple other tools through Zapier and APIs. And so we take the list directly from Task Drive, we put it into Fresh Sales, allows me to make calls from there. It does everything. It's such an impressive, powerful tool. But there are others, right? There's Persist IQ. There's a bunch of email tools. The idea is that you want one that tracks everything: the open rate, the response rate, the bounce rate, everything else, so you can know exactly what's working and what's not working. So, okay, I've gone over the tools. Let me get back to day 7. Let's assume you've already made the LinkedIn connection request. The in-mail aspect is it does require Sales Navigator, but what you can do is you can bypass the connection request and say they haven't accepted it yet. You can send them an email directly to their inbox. And it's different because I think most everyone is using those automated tools to send connection requests. Very few people are using in-mail to reach their prospect directly. Now, it does happen. There are a lot of them. The messages are often pretty bad. So if you can write a good message, you're already above your competitors, but that's what I would do. And then maybe you would follow up with a second phone call, or you might try something else to just connect with them, but it's just kind of staying on top of it and following up. Mm-hmm. Make sense?
Yep. We're good. If there's any questions as we're going through, please feel free to throw it in the chat. All right, Zach, we're going to wrap this up in 5 minutes, so let's go through it real quick. We covered heavy lifting here. So
day 10 is another 3 days, and you can set that up in Fresh Sales or any tool to follow up in 3 days or to remind you in 3 days. If it's a manual task that needs to be done, like LinkedIn, you can remind yourself through this tool hey, these 14 people need a LinkedIn task done. Okay, great. And you can go through and each one and do it. It does require some work, but it's worth it. So then the next one would be email 3 is you might be sending some content. Hey, I haven't heard back from you. are you interested in, case studies or something along those lines? So you're trying to provide value instead of just constantly pitching or trying to get them on the phone. And that's how that email might be a little bit different than the ones before. Make sense?
Yes. Yep. Perfect.
Charlie, any questions on that or anything I missed?
No, I think you're pretty spot on there. One of the things that we're just giving you like everything we can in limited time. So it's drinking water out of a fire hose here. Call to actions. Sometimes it's a little bit easier instead of saying, hey, click my link or reply back. Let me know what time works for you. We've tested multiple different calls to actions. So some of our favorites are, I'm going to call your office on Tuesday. So when we have a phone call, we say that, we're going to call them on Tuesday or we're going to call them on Thursday. We do. And so we'll put it in the email, say, hey, I'm planning on calling your office Tuesday morning. I wanted to see if you're around. More times than not, they'll say, won't be here, but let's schedule a time, maybe Thursday, Friday.
Right. Yeah, that's good because it also feels personal. Like someone's actually going to pick up the phone and call. It's not like a sales pitch. I don't think that you would blast to a million people because you couldn't possibly call everyone on Tuesday. So maybe it sounds a little more personalized, but that's a good point to point out. So next step, day 14, you could ostensibly, you could perhaps cut it off there and that would be pretty powerful with those 4 steps. But we'd like to go a little bit further, a little more strategic. So we'd have another follow-up email saying, hey, look, short call to action. We've seen clients that we've worked with grow their business by 15 to 30%, sometimes as high as 112% interested in a quick call or, something like we've seen other businesses. I think it would be productive for you, interested in a 15-minute call, something like that to engage, to get them on the phone. Right. And the idea is to have it all mapped out. And as you can see, if they say yes, they go to strategy session, so on and so forth. The next step, day 18, is we'll do a phone call, usually a voicemail. At that point, I might even do what is called a strip line. If I'm bothering you, just let me know. That way I can, stop spamming your inbox or stop, bothering you, whatever it may be. But if you are, just let me know what day you want to hop on the phone. And most people say, yeah, leave me alone. Or they'll say, yeah, I'm interested. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you. Let's schedule a call. Right. Now, the last thing I'll mention that's not on here, that's kind of like this weird tweak that nobody is doing and is super old school. But, one of the things, the pet peeves that drives me nuts, Charlie, is that people say, I love your work.
Oh, I know.
And then you'll go look on your website, or if you're really crazy like Charlie, he'll go into his list and he'll see that you haven't subscribed to their blog or his blog or our blog.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, you love my work, but you're not actually on my newsletter. That's interesting. So what I will do is if they made it all the way down to this end, they haven't told me to, no or yes, I will go to their website and hit a contact us form. Hey, I'm at your website. Just wanted to fill this out, whatever. Right. That's my last one.
Smart.
It's kind of like a Hail Mary, obviously, but I've gotten a lot of emails back saying, hey, I got your contact us. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you. So again, this isn't the easiest route, but it's effective and it works. And the point is that you're hitting your prospect on, or you're contacting them. I shouldn't say hitting because that makes it sound like you're just badgering them. You're contacting your prospect on different platforms at different times with different messages so that when they see one and it kind of builds on the one before, they're more likely to let you know yes or no. And if they say no, that's okay, because then you can move on to the next qualified prospect.
And keep in mind, this is what Zach's been doing. We're sharing Zach's results, and Zach's only spending, just a few hours a day on the prospecting side of things because he's working with clients, he's working with, he's doing sales calls and whatnot. And even with Zach doing this just a few hours a day, we're running into another problem. And the problem is we're setting up so many appointments that it's a lot more than just what Zach and I can handle. And so that's a really good problem to have. I don't know how many of you are experiencing a similar problem, but I can promise you right now that when you start adding multiple touch points, you're going to see your results go up significantly. And so to just wrap things up real quick, if you're not hearing anything from anybody at the end of all these different touches here, what you want to do is you want to continue to remarket to them for at least 30 days before you remove them from the list. Because what ends up happening, people like myself, I mean, I've got a couple hundred emails that I've yet to go through in my inbox. You know, it might take me a few days before I actually see it, but the more I see your message, again, more likely I'm going to respond, and that will increase your response rate. We do a strategy session. I don't know exactly, you know, what you do, you know, what you call them. You get them on the phone. We do a strategy session. If they become a client, awesome. You guys know how to handle it when they become a client. Let's say we have a strategy session, but they don't become a client yet, not someday. We add them to the email, or not yet, but someday. We'll add them to the email list. We're going to continue to retarget them on Facebook and Google and follow up occasionally. That's really, really important. And funny enough, what we find is most of our clients actually, they've been following us for a few months before they actually do become clients. So really, really important. It's one of the easiest ways that we pick up a lot of low-hanging fruits in working with clients is how the follow-up. Because the money is made in the no, not in the yes. Only, you know, roughly any of all the qualified people that come to your website, only 3% are actually going to buy. So it's how you're going to monetize the rest. So there you go. And now if they're just a bad fit, if you're a bad fit and, you know, if we find out the prospect is a bad fit, we'll remove them from the list. We're going to stop retargeting and the whole deal.
Yeah. So, the last thing, and so I think Rob asked if you could zoom out. There you go, maybe a little bit further. But the last thing I'll say is if a prospect tells you to leave them alone, leave them alone, right? You don't want to get in the business of just being annoying. Maybe some people on this phone call like him, but you don't want to be like Grant Cardone and just like blasting people.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, that's not always the best approach in my opinion. So if they say no, take them off, just move on. There's plenty of other fish in the sea, and find that person that is excited to work with you.
So do the things that your competitors aren't doing, right? A few other quick touch points that are going to make you even more effective. If somebody connects with you on LinkedIn, one easy way that you could stay top of mind, you want to post pretty frequently, right? And so Zach is great. He'll post once a day, and he'll get plenty of people engaging with him. So you want to do that. Let's see, or once a week at a minimum. Direct mail. Direct mail is an awesome tool. People get something in the mail. They tend to open it, and it's treated differently and with higher value. So you could do handwritten postcards. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll send people a copy of my book, whatever that might be. But definitely leverage direct mail. It's just another touch point, especially if you have a high lifetime value of your client. So your client's worth a lot. You know, it's just short money to be able to spend that extra time and effort, get in front of people. Pick out a persistence. But I know we're a little bit over time. I want to make sure that that I'm respectful of all your time. If you do have any questions, though, you know, feel free to reach out to us. Actually, Zach, what's the best way that they can contact you and ask you some more questions on all this stuff here that you covered? It's the easiest way.
I mean, without having to write a bunch of stuff down, I guess you just go to our website. We have our chat bot up. You can just type in questions there and we'll get back to you. Or you can, you know, email me at Zach, ZACH at predictableprofits.com. Obviously within each step of these, there's nuances, you know, and it can vary. The important thing is that you're tracking everything, right? So even if you're only going to send 10, make sure you're tracking all those details. But yeah, reach out to us. We're happy to help. And that's it.
Yeah. So, and feel free to let us know. We love putting together these trainings. So as you have different ideas or challenges or whatnot, send us an email, drop us a message, whatever it is. And that could be the subject of our next business training. So again, everybody, thank you very much. Go to our website, predictableprofits.com. Hit us up in the chat box if you want. We'll answer your questions and we'll take things from there. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Be well.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you soon.